Hey, listen, it's date night, and we're making a Boulevardier coffee cocktail here on Coffee Cocktails. Oh, hey there. Welcome to Coffee Cocktails with Bob and Michelle. Welcome to date night, and welcome to our exploration of coffee cocktails made with coffee, coffee liqueur, and coffee liquor. Hey, listen, today we're making a Boulevardier. Did I say that right?
I think you did.
Okay, all right, very fine. And a Boulevardier, now I messed it up, is equal parts Campari, rye, and sweet vermouth. And it's a lot like a Negroni. Like a Negroni, instead of the rye or the bourbon, you would use gin, right? So, but this is a coffee cocktail. So we're going to take all these ingredients, chill them down, and pour them over coffee. So the first thing we have to get ready is our coffee. And let me get our scale out here because we're going to need 15 grams of coffee. And we've got our BIGGBY Best Farm Direct coffee right here. And we keep it fresh in our airscape. Let's see, I'm going to need a little tray here. And I'll need to zero that out. Did it hit zero?
Yes.
Okay. And it's about 15 grams. But it's about
12.6.
12.6, and just a little bit more of a regular coffee scoop.
16.8.
16. Boy,
It's elusive.
It is very elusive.
15.7.
Okay.
15.3. 15.1.
I think we got to call that good.
I think we got to call it good too.
Keeping the coffee fresh in our airscape. You can hear that air shoot right out of there. And we're going to take this coffee right here and give it a little bit of a spritz. And that spritz reduces static in the coffee grinder. And we have some pro tips on how to use a coffee grinder. We'll put that right up here. But we're going to go ahead and get our grinder started first. Pour in our coffee. And turn off the grinder because we've already pre-ground the coffee for you. And as expected, there's no static here. We can get this out of the way now. And we're going to bring our little V60. Now, I've used a V60, but we could use a Melita. You could actually use a Chemex. It doesn't really matter. The one thing that does matter is that you pre-wet the paper. And it's not about pre-wetting it. It's really about rinsing the paper flavor off. And if you want to know about that, we have an episode on filters that will tell you all about that. We don't need to preheat this vessel because the alcohol is going to do the actual extraction for us just fine. Okay. So that's our coffee prep ready. We'll give it a little shake so it levels off. But now all the equipment you'll need here are a couple of cocktail glasses, something to stir down the alcohol with, some measuring devices, either a jigger or some kitchen measuring tool, a V60 or whatever method, paper method that you might have, and a container to let that drip into. We're going to need a peeler and some toothpicks. Ingredients wise, we already sort of covered it, but it's Campari, it's a little bourbon or rye, it's a little sweet vermouth, some cherries. We're going to use orange in the end, coffee of course, and some salt.
Ooh.
We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, what's the salt for? Who knows? I'll tell you. We'll be telling you. Now, I fresh ground coffee. You don't have to fresh grind the coffee. You could use pre-ground coffee, and we have some great coffees, both BIGGBY Best and Living Hope Coffee or Farm Direct. If you want to use those, that would be great. Okay, it's time to mix up our beverage, and I'm going to get a couple of big ice cubes into our one got stuck on there into our little mixing glass. And, you know, I like to use big ice cubes, but that is certainly not mandatory by any means. All right, now the ratio is 1 to 1 to 1, but it's date night, so I have to make 2 drinks. So I'm going to go with 3 ounces of Campari. One set of 3 ounces. Boy, that looks like Kool-Aid.
It does.
I know. Get our little wild turkey going in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you could use any bourbon or rye. It doesn't really matter. It's going to be pretty modified in a cocktail like this. And then a little sweet vermouth. Same thing. 3 ounces. And there we go. Okay. Now the idea here is we got to really chill this down. And you know, that's a big part of cocktails is the chilling down. And we do that by just stirring and stirring and stirring. And you know, some say you need 40 revolutions, some say you need 60 revolutions. But the idea here is to actually get the cocktail super cold. Ideally, you would be chilling your glasses at this point in time. And the other part of it is we're looking for the ice to melt a little bit, right? It sort of takes some of the spiritness off the drink. And I know, you know, some might consider it sacrilegious to dilute their liquor. But in this case, it makes the drink very palatable. Okay. Did you count my revolutions?
I didn't that time. I was too busy being distracted by how that looks like pomegranate iced tea.
It has an attractive color. That's why
It does.
These glasses have a little bit of a pink hue to them. I think that's going to look really good in here. Okay, now we're just going to pour this right over our 15 grams of coffee. And we're not worried about a bloom or anything like that. We're not worried about agitation or non-agitation. Just pour it right in there. Now I will give it a little bit of a stir because if I don't, there's some dry ground sitting on the top. And we want to make sure all the grounds get well saturated, just like this. There we go.
Babe, when it goes through
Yeah.
and it you know, it's doing this cold extraction, does it bring caffeine with it?
Definitely there's caffeine with it, you know, and we like that for date night. Because, you know, it's 5 o'clock on Friday, and we need a little pick-me-up because we just finished a really busy day of work. And, you know, we need the alcohol to sort of smooth us out. So it's a pick-me-up and smooth us out kind of thing.
Oh, you're making me giggle, and that's making the camera wiggle.
Oh, that'll be all right. So, you know, normally when we extract coffee, it's hot water. It might be at 206, might be at 210 degrees. And it's the violent action of that heat that dissolves the solubles in the coffee. In this case, it's actually the alcohol that's doing the dissolving, right? So we don't have to worry about it being hot. And frankly, if it happened at room temperature, it wouldn't taste as good as if I just chilled it. Having it that chilled has a better extraction than letting it be at room temperature. So I want you to keep that in mind as you consider making this drink. All right, I'm going to pull the plug early here and let this finish up in our little mixing glass. And we're going to go ahead and prepare a drink. Now, the one thing I'm going to do at this point, because I said, oh, there's some salt, you know. And I need to get a different stir stick because I got grounds on my other one. But I have the faintest amount of salt in this espresso cup. So I'm looking at about 10 grains of salt. You're not going to be able to pick it up with the
Oh,
camera.
I think I can. Let me
All
see.
right. You got that?
Yeah, I do.
All right. And I'm just going to put that in here and give it a stir. And the reason that I'm putting that salt in is, frankly, Campari can be just a little bit bitter itself. And then we're, you know, extracting coffee. We know coffee can be a little bitter too. But if we just put a few grains of salt in there, it'll flatten out that bitterness. All right. You know, ice cubes are always important in cocktails, but I have these little square ones that kind of match the shape of this particular cocktail glass, which I like. And we're just going to pour this over. Now, I love the name of this drink, Boulevardier. I'd like to say it with a little bit of a southern accent. If I said it with a southern accent, what would it sound like?
You don't want me trying that.
Okay. I thought you might give it a whirl, because you do such a fabulous Southern accent.
I'm
you know?
quite sure I would alienate anybody south
I'm
of the
quite sure, too.
Mason-Dixon line.
We have some cherries. These are brandied cherries with a little orange peel. We're going to put that on
that's so
one side
pretty.
and on the other. And I'm about ready to inaugurate date night tonight, but
Woohoo!
full warning, babe, don't poke your eye out with that toothpick.
I'll do my best.
But here's to date night, and here's to a Boulevardier.
Cheers, handsome.
Cheers, babe. Wow, that's a really good drink. Now,
Wow, it is.
you know, it's not, you called it, I think, fruit punch or something like that. It's not that at all. It's not Kool-Aid.
No.
It has a very botanical flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very interesting cocktail. Now, normally when people say interesting, that means they don't like it, but this is actually an interesting cocktail. We would recommend it. So, well, that's it. We got to get off to date night. Hopefully you liked this episode and you'll give us a like, or perhaps you'd like to subscribe. We'd really enjoy that. Perhaps you have a comment, good or bad. Please share that with us. But just before we leave, we want to leave you with this one note, and that is, when you love the world will love you right back.
From my handsome husband who knows everything about coffee,
To the woman I love deeply, we hope you subscribe to
Coffee Cocktails.
brought to you by
OneBigIsland
In Space
.com
with two G's.